Okay, let's get into this. Have you ever sort of stopped to think how a single ingredient could end up in, say, a heavy-duty car degreaser, and also in something like, a really delicate perfume?
Huh. It sounds strange, doesn't it? But that's exactly what we're talking about today with 2-Ethyl Hexyl Lactate.
Right, so that chemical.
Exactly. And fundamentally, it's a bio-based solvent, which just means it comes from renewable stuff, plants, basically. This deep dive, it's all based on the latest market analysis, looking at why this particular chemical is, well, quietly becoming a pretty big deal.
Okay, so our mission here is to figure out not just what it is, but why it's gaining traction now, what forces are shaping its future, and ultimately, why should you, listening right now, actually care about this ingredient you've maybe never even heard of?
Well, the relevance is huge, really. It plugs right into that whole green chemistry movement that's gaining so much momentum.
Green chemistry, okay.
Yeah, and what the analysis really drills down on is that its rise isn't just one thing. It's this potent mix of market demand and regulatory push. Probably the biggest single driver, though, it's the just overwhelming need for greener alternatives across the board
Oh, okay.
because it's biodegradable, and crucially, it has super low VOC content. Those volatile organic compounds.
The ones that cause smog and air quality issues.
Exactly those. So low VOC means it's a fantastic fit for companies trying to meet tougher environmental standards, get those eco labels.
Right, the clean label thing you see popping up everywhere. So it's not just wanting to be green, it's often having to be green now.
Precisely. It helps them tick those boxes.
Okay, so the green angle is clear. What else makes it stand out, though? Is it actually any good?
That's the interesting part. Its performance. Surprisingly good, actually. It has excellent solvency power.
Solvency, meaning it dissolves stuff well.
Yeah, in simple terms. It's particularly effective at tackling like really stubborn, greasy residues or certain pigments, stuff that water or even some other green solvents just can't really touch effectively. So you get the environmental plus points without necessarily sacrificing the cleaning power, especially in things like industrial cleaners or automotive products.
That's kind of the holy grail, isn't it?
Yeah,
Green, and it actually works properly.
it really is.
And you mentioned regulations pushing this, too.
Oh, absolutely. Governments all over the world are, tightening the screws on those traditional petrochemical solvents, the ones known to be hazardous or high in VOCs. This basically creates a sort of mandated market opening for safer bio-based options like 2-ethyl hexyl lactate, even if they cost a bit more upfront.
The stick is as powerful as the carrot sometimes, eh?
You could say that, yeah.
And the analysis, did it point to growth in specific areas? Like, where is it really taking off?
Definitely. Paints and coatings is a big one.
Okay. How does it fit in there?
Well, it gets used in the formulations for inks, different types of coatings, even car finishes. It helps improve how the product flows, its consistency, drying times, all while meeting those newer environmental rules. Helps get that smooth finish.
Right, right. So, okay, it sounds pretty great. Biodegradable, low VOC, performs well, regulations are helping. Why isn't it just everywhere already? What are the catches?
Yeah, there are definitely hurdles. The analysis points to the classic challenge, really, for a lot of these innovative bio-based products.
Yeah.
Cost.
Price. Always comes back to price.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Compared to the established petroleum-based solvents that are churned out on a massive scale, this one, well, it can be significantly more expensive to produce, and that's a major barrier,
Yeah.
especially for smaller companies or in markets where price is just absolutely critical.
Makes sense. Anything else holding it back?
Well, there's still a bit of a gap in awareness and adoption in some places, particularly, say, developing regions. The benefits aren't always fully understood yet, and setting up reliable supply chains can be tricky. But maybe the most interesting challenge, thinking bigger picture, is the supply volatility.
Volatility. What's it? It's made from plants, right? Seems like it should be steady.
You'd think so, but because it comes from lactic acid, which itself comes from fermenting
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
acid, which itself comes from fermenting bio feedstock, basically plant matter, like corn or sugar beet. Any disruption in that agricultural supply chain, bad weather, crop failures, even issues in the fermentation process can suddenly impact both the price and the availability. It's not as predictable as pulling oil out of the ground.
Okay. That adds a whole layer of risk for manufacturers, I guess. They need reliable supply.
Exactly. They have to factor that potential instability in.
So despite those challenges, cost, awareness, volatility, What are the big trends the analysis sees shaping its future? Where's it heading?
Well, the biggest one is just that huge overarching global shift towards a sustainable circular economy. That's like a massive tailwind pushing it forward. Companies everywhere are actively trying to reformulate their products to meet green standards, and that's constantly opening up totally new potential uses for biosolvents like this one.
And I suppose innovation must be key to tackling that cost problem.
Definitely. There's a lot of R&D research and development focused on making the whole bio-based chemical process more efficient, trying to bring those production costs down, make it more competitive head-to-head with the old stuff.
And you mentioned earlier finding it in surprising places, like personal care. Is that a real trend for the future?
Oh, absolutely. Because it's generally seen as skin-safe, non-toxic, and it has these unique solvency properties. It can carry fragrances or other active ingredients really well. We are seeing it pop up more and more in personal care products, things like perfumes, skincare formulations. That's actually a growing high-value market for it.
Which brings us right back to that first image from car cleaner to perfume. It makes sense now.
Exactly. And one last thing the analysis highlights is the strategic moves. Big chemical companies are getting involved.
Ah, the majors are stepping in.
Yeah, making partnerships, investing significantly, expanding production capacity, building out distribution networks. That really validates its potential and helps make it more accessible globally.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've got this chemical 2-Ethyl Hexyl Lactate. It's bio-based, a rising star. Its growth is fueled by this huge demand for green products, its own unique performance, and, let's be honest, regulatory pressure.
Right. But it's not a simple story. It faces real challenges, primarily that higher production cost compared to incumbents, and that tricky supply uncertainty linked to its agricultural roots.
Which really leads to a bigger question for you listening.
Okay.
Why does understanding the market dynamics of one specific, slightly obscure chemical actually matter?
Well, think about it. Consider all the hidden ingredients in the products you use every single day. The degreaser maybe under your sink, the paint on your office walls, maybe even, your favorite cologne or perfume. This huge global push towards sustainability, combined with ever stricter regulations, is quietly rewriting the chemical formulas behind those everyday things.
It's happening sort of under the surface.
Exactly. And that leads us to a final thought, something for you to maybe mull over. Given this powerful drive for green alternatives pretty much everywhere, what other common, maybe invisible substances that surround you right now might be on the verge of being swapped out for bio-based options? And how might that quiet revolution in chemistry reshape our world in ways we haven't even really started to notice yet? Okay, let's dive into something pretty fundamental today. The aqueous ammonia market.
Right. We've got this market analysis, and we're going to try and unpack it.
Yeah, figure out what's really pushing demand, what the roadblocks are, and, where things are generally heading for this compound.
It sounds simple, aqueous ammonia, but it's surprisingly crucial.
Exactly. You probably interact with its effects every day without even thinking about it. Things like clean water, the food on your plate.
Even the phone or computer you might be using right now.
So let's start with the drivers. According to this analysis, what's really propelling this market forward?
Well, a really big one is water. Water and wastewater treatment.
Okay. How does it fit in there?
It's essential for removing things like nitrogen and phosphorus nutrients you don't want building up, causes pollution, algal blooms, that kind of thing.
Ah, right. Nutrient removal.
Yeah, and it also helps control the pH level, making water safe, treatable, and as cities keep growing.
More wastewater needs treating. Makes sense. So more demand for aqueous ammonia.
Precisely. Clean water is just fundamental.
And speaking of fundamental, ammonia, nitrogen, that screams agriculture, right?
Absolutely. It's got that high nitrogen content, which makes it basically a cornerstone for fertilizer production.
And with the global population growing, food demand isn't slowing down.
Nope. So boosting agricultural productivity is key, and aqueous ammonia is a really core ingredient for that.
Okay, water, food. What else? The analysis mentioned it pops up elsewhere too.
It really does. It's used across a whole range of industries, actually. Think pulp and paper, textiles, even pharmaceuticals, chemical manufacturing.
Why so versatile?
It's a great alkaline agent.
Right.
So for lots of different chemical processes, it's just very useful.
Gotcha. Now, there was another driver mentioned that ties into bigger global trends and environment.
Yes, environmental compliance. This is a significant growth area, specifically selective catalytic reduction, SCR systems.
Ah, the emissions control tech
Yeah,
for power plants and things.
exactly. Power plants, big industrial boilers, even some heavy-duty vehicles, you inject aqueous ammonia into the exhaust.
And it reacts with the nasty stuff.
Right. With a catalyst, it turns harmful nitrogen oxides, NOx, into just harmless nitrogen gas.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
Nitrogen oxides, NOx, into just harmless nitrogen gas and water.
And with emission laws getting tougher everywhere.
The demand for SCR, and therefore aqueous ammonia, just keeps climbing.
Okay, so some really powerful drivers there, tied to essentials like water and food and global goals like clean air.
Definitely strong forces.
But it can't all be straightforward. What are the challenges? The analysis must highlight some hurdles.
Oh, absolutely. The number one issue is health and safety. No question.
Because it's dangerous stuff.
It's toxic and corrosive. You
Yeah.
really have to know what you're doing. It needs very strict safety rules, special equipment for handling, transport, storage.
Trained people, I assume?
Definitely. All of that adds layers of complexity and, importantly, cost.
Right, safety first, but cost is always a factor. You mentioned cost. Any other pressures there?
Price volatility is a big one. Making ammonia needs a lot of energy, and it heavily relies on natural gas.
And natural gas prices can swing wildly.
Exactly. So those unpredictable swings directly mess with production costs, making it hard to plan and impacting margins.
Okay, safety concerns, price swings, regulations must play a part too.
For sure. Environmental rules, occupational safety standards, they're always evolving, getting stricter.
Which means companies need to keep investing to comply.
Right. And the sources point out that this can be, well, particularly tough for smaller players in the market. Keeping up can be expensive.
Are there any specific issues, maybe regionally?
Yeah, the analysis mentions challenges in some emerging economies. Sometimes it's about maybe less awareness of the safe handling practices.
Which would naturally slow down adoption.
Right. And sometimes it's a lack of the necessary infrastructure, the industrial plants, the water treatment facilities needed to actually use it effectively on a big scale. Investment is needed there.
Okay, so we've got the drivers pushing it forward and these challenges holding it back. What about the future? What trends are shaping where aqueous ammonia is headed?
Well, one interesting trend is this push towards more eco-friendly water treatment.
And ammonia fits in how?
Because it's biodegradable. Compared to some other chemicals you might use, that's a plus.
Ah, that connects back nicely to the water treatment driver we talked about earlier.
It does. And also, technology isn't standing still, those SCR systems. They're getting better.
More efficient, cheaper.
Yeah, more efficient, more cost-effective, which means they're starting to be used in more places, maybe beyond just the huge power plants, into other industries or even smaller mobile sources.
Interesting. Any specific industries or regions showing big shifts?
Definitely. The semiconductor and electronics industry is highlighted, especially in East Asia. China, Japan, South Korea.
What do they use it for? Cleaning silicon wafers?
Pretty much. Extremely precise etching and cleaning processes. You need something really pure with the right alkaline properties for making those tiny components.
Wow, okay, so the electronics boom is actually driving ammonia demand.
It seems so.
Yeah.
And regionally, overall, Asia-Pacific is the dominant market.
Why there specifically?
Well, partly that huge agricultural sector needing fertilizer, but also just rapid industrialization, chemical plants, textiles, and now increasingly electronics.
Right, China, India, massive growth.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. We have the drivers, the challenges, these emerging trends. What's the big picture takeaway for aqueous ammonia?
I think it really shows how this seemingly simple chemical is actually a fundamental enabler for so much of modern life.
Yeah, it's enabling cleaner water, helping feed the world, allowing industries to clean up their emissions.
And powering the advanced electronics that, run everything. It's woven deep into the global economy and into your life, probably in ways you hadn't considered.
It really is essential across so many vital growing sectors. So maybe here's something to think about. As the world demands more clean water, more food, less pollution, better electronics, all things relying on aqueous ammonia, how does the industry balance that growing demand against the really critical and often costly needs for safety and infrastructure, especially with those volatile energy prices impacting costs?
That's the key question, isn't it? It's a fundamental substance facing some complex challenges, but with a pretty vital future ahead.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.